I put my sister's name on my business so she could get a loan. She promised it was temporary. A year later, I found out she'd transferred the ownership and left me with $72 in the account. I called her crying. She said, "You never had the guts to run it anyway." That same night, I walked into the office to pack my things, but found a hidden ledger she forgot to burn. I don't even know where to begin. I'm not writing this for sympathy, or even revenge. I just want someone out there to know what really happened. Because if it could happen to me, someone who trusted too easily, it could happen to anyone. My name is Eli. I'm 38 years old. I live in Durham, North Carolina. And until a year ago, I owned a logistics company I built from the ground up. Nothing fancy, just trucks, drivers, deliveries. But it was honest work. It paid my bills. It gave me something I could be proud of. I didn't grow up with much. My dad worked maintenance at a hospital, and my mom passed away when I was 17. My sister, Melanie, is 4 years older than me. She was always the loud one, the charming one, the one who knew how to talk herself into, and out of, just about anything. Me? I kept my head down. I learned how to fix engines, file paperwork, and grind quietly. We weren't close for most of our adult lives. Different cities, different lives. But she was still my sister. And that mattered. Or at least it used to. When COVID hit, business tanked. I thought I was done for. But in late 2021, deliveries exploded again. Online orders were back. Big retailers needed regional partners. By spring of 2022, I had contracts with 2 wholesalers, 6 trucks on the road, and 3 full-time employees. I wasn't rich. But I was finally stable. Then Melanie called me out of nowhere. "Eli," she said, "I got a deal on the table, but I need to show proof of assets. Just short-term, nothing big." I wouldn't ask if I had other options. I didn't know all the details. She mentioned a real estate flip in Atlanta and needing to show collateral for a loan. But the key thing she said was, "It's your company. I'm just putting my name on the LLC paperwork to make it look stronger for the bank. You'll still run everything. It's just temporary." I didn't love the idea. But I remembered what Dad always used to say, "You don't turn your back on blood." So I agreed. We went to a notary together, signed paperwork adding her as co-owner. I even drafted an internal agreement, one that said she'd remove her name once the loan went through. I thought that would protect me. I was wrong. Months passed. She kept dragging it out. Still waiting on bank approval. Just another 2 weeks. The underwriters are asking questions, don't freak out. Meanwhile, I noticed weird things. She'd show up at the office unannounced. One time, I caught her going through the filing cabinets. She laughed it off. "I'm just being organized." "You're a mess." Then she started coming to meetings. She'd charm clients, interrupt me, take credit for ideas. At first, I was just glad for the help. I thought, maybe she's finally turning things around. Then came the kicker. One Friday, I tried to buy fuel for the trucks. My business card declined. I thought it was a glitch. I checked the bank account, $72.13. I stared at the screen for a solid minute, thinking it had to be wrong. I called the bank. They said the account had been closed and consolidated. I tried to log into the business management portal, locked out. Corporate name, changed. That's when it hit me. She hadn't just added her name. She had transferred ownership, completely. 3 weeks earlier. She'd forged documents. Rerouted the business registration. And drained the entire account. I drove straight to the office. My key still worked. But the lights were off. Desks empty. My employees? Gone. There was a note on my chair. Just sitting there, like a final slap in the face. You never had the guts to run this anyway. I just did what you couldn't. Mel, I called her. I was shaking. I didn't even know what I was going to say. When she picked up, her voice was calm. Like she hadn't just stabbed me in the back. It's done, Eli. You'll bounce back. You always do. You stole everything, I said. Everything I built. No. I saved it. You were too weak to grow it. I made it into something real. I trusted you. That was your first mistake. Then she hung up. I sat in that dark office until midnight. It didn't feel real. I didn't even cry. I just felt hollow. I thought about Dad. About the nights I slept on the warehouse floor during the early months. About the time I missed Christmas to deliver a last-minute pallet myself. And for what? So my sister, my own blood, could gut it all for a real estate deal? I almost walked out and never looked back. But then, something caught my eye. There was a cabinet in the corner. One I never used. The bottom drawer was cracked open. I pulled it all the way out and found a thick red binder, half shoved behind the rails. It looked old. Worn. Too nice to be mine. I opened it. What I saw made my heart stop. It wasn't just notes. It was records. Real names. Cash payments. Fake invoices. Altered receipts. Page after page of what looked like fraud. And at the bottom? A sticky note with a list of targets. Mine was one of them. Along with 2 other names I didn't recognize, maybe former partners or burned investors. I realized something. She didn't forget to destroy this binder. She didn't know it was still here. She tried to torch everything, but she missed this. And now I had her entire playbook in my hands. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat in my truck outside the office, flipping through that red binder under a flashlight, my hands shaking. I knew what I was looking at. Melanie didn't just screw me over. She was running a full-blown scam, and she had been for months, maybe longer. The binder had everything. Fake contracts with companies that didn't exist, side payments from shady subcontractors, a $14,000 wire labeled permit consultant. But I knew for a fact we never needed a permit for that job, a hand-signed bonus to herself from the business account before she wiped it clean, and then there were the voice notes. I hadn't even seen those at first. Inside the front flap was a USB drive taped to the inside cover. I played it on my laptop. It was her. Melanie, talking to someone named Rob, discussing how she planned to strip the business clean and flip the shell. He won't fight back, she said. Eli's too soft. He just wants to be liked. That hit harder than anything. Not just the theft. Not just the betrayal. But the fact that she knew I wouldn't stand up for myself. And she was right, until that moment. The next morning, I called one person I hadn't spoken to in years, Brian Malley. We went to high school together. He used to be the stoner kid everyone ignored. Now? He was an assistant attorney in Raleigh, handling financial crimes and fraud. I had seen his name pop up on a news segment once. We met in a small diner just off Highway 70. I brought the binder, the USB, and every piece of paperwork I still had from when I was running the business. Brian took one look at it and said, "Jesus. Where the hell did you get this?" I told him everything. He listened. Asked questions. Took notes. After an hour, he closed the binder and leaned in. "This isn't just civil theft. It's fraud, wire fraud, maybe even RICO. If this stuff is real, and I'll verify it, we can take her down hard." That was the first time I'd felt hope in weeks. But then came the twist I didn't expect. Later that week, Brian called me back. His tone was different. Hesitant. "Eli, there's a problem. Melanie didn't act alone." "What do you mean? That guy Rob?" His full name is Robert L. Corbin. He's a developer, kind of shady reputation. But more than that, he used to work for the city's procurement office. Your sister's permits? Contracts? All those favors? He's the one who greased the wheels. My stomach dropped. So this goes beyond her. Yeah. And here's the thing, this kind of case? If we go public too fast, it spooks the others. They bury evidence. They disappear. So what do? We set a trap. The plan was risky. I had to play along, pretend like I was still clueless, like I'd given up. Meanwhile, Brian and his team would quietly build the case, tracking financials, pulling surveillance, checking wire transfers. They even tapped Rob's phone. Legally. In the meantime, I watched Melanie flaunt her success all over social media. She was wearing designer boots now. Taking selfies in high-end steakhouses. Posting inspirational quotes like, "Sometimes you have to burn bridges to light the way." It was like watching someone mock you from your own funeral. Then came another hit. One of my former drivers, Carlos, called me. "Hey man. I don't know if you saw, but Melanie's using your trucks. Same logos. Same routes." What? Yeah. She's running your operation exactly the same, but she's calling it Corbin Transport now. She didn't just steal my company. She rebranded it under his name. That was it. I called Brian. I want in. I want to help. Tell me what to do. We made a move. I reached out to Melanie. Pretended to wave the white flag. "You were right," I texted. "I'm not cut out for business. I'm gonna move to Asheville. Start over. Just, let me take some of the equipment. I'll sign whatever you need." She responded instantly. "Sure thing, little bro. As long as you're not causing problems." She didn't suspect a thing. We arranged to meet at the old office, what used to be mine. She said she'd bring the paperwork. What she didn't know was that the place was already wired. Brian had sent a plainclothes investigator to plant listening devices the day before. And then, during our meeting, she made a mistake. She laughed. "You know what the funniest part of all this is, Eli?" "What?" "You literally handed it to me. I didn't even have to lie. You just signed the papers." "I mean, who does that?" I didn't respond. I just nodded. But I made sure I looked hurt. Small. Weak. The way she liked it. Then I left. 2 days later, Brian called me again. He sounded like he hadn't slept. "We got it. The recordings, the ledger, the transfers, we've got enough to take them both down." But it wasn't just about Melanie anymore. "You're not gonna like this," he added. "Try me. Your sister's been using the business to launder money for Corbin. Construction deals, fake contractors, slush payments. There's close to $400,000 missing from your original accounts. That means tax fraud too. And guess who they're gonna try to pin it on first? Me. Yup. Unless we act fast." I knew I couldn't just be a victim in this anymore. If I didn't fight back the right way, I wouldn't just lose my company, I'd lose my name. So we made a final plan. And this time, I was going to confront Melanie face to face, one last time. But not in court. Not in private. I was going to confront her where she felt strongest, in front of her new investors, her clients, her fake empire. And I wasn't walking in empty-handed. Brian told me the state was close to pressing charges. The Financial Crimes Unit wanted to pull the trigger. But I asked them for a favor. 1 week. Just 1 week before they arrested her. I needed to finish something. My way. Melanie was planning a launch party for Corbin Transport. I saw the flyer online. Classy venue in Raleigh. Open bar. Live music. Investors, vendors, city contacts, everyone she wanted to impress would be there. She'd even plastered my old company's logo on the invite. Modified just enough to avoid copyright. It made my stomach turn. Let her have her night, Brian said. She'll be in custody by Monday. But I didn't want her just arrested. I wanted her exposed. The night of the party, I wore my old Trek Fleet polo and walked in like I belonged there. I knew the security guy. He used to drive my second truck before Melanie fired him and replaced him with someone cheaper. Eli, he said, shocked. Yeah. I'm just here to congratulate her. He nodded. Good luck with that. The venue was packed. Fancy lights. Big banner that read, Corbin Transport, the future of local logistics. She was holding court near the bar, surrounded by men in suits. Champagne in one hand, phone in the other. She looked up and saw me. And for the first time in her life, Melanie flinched. Well, she said, walking over. Didn't expect to see you here. Didn't expect to be invited. You weren't. She gave me a tight smile. But I guess it's good for people to see we're on good terms. Makes things cleaner. I stepped closer and lowered my voice. You sure you want to do this here? Do what? Keep pretending this is yours. She laughed. Loud. Fake. Enough to draw attention. He's joking, she said to a guy next to her. My little brother's always been dramatic. I nodded slowly. Then I pulled a folded copy of the ledger page from my jacket. Maybe this will help with your next investor pitch. She went pale. Where did you get that? You forgot a drawer. You always were sloppy. She grabbed it and looked at the paper like it was poison. You shouldn't be here, Eli. And you shouldn't have forged my name. At that point, people were watching. I raised my voice. This company was mine. Every truck, every contract, every late night, mine. And you stole it with a smile. Now you want to act like the queen of logistics? Go ahead. But you might want to start prepping for your mugshot. The room went quiet. She tried to laugh it off again. But her hands were shaking. I walked away. Didn't look back. The fallout started the next morning. First, a supplier pulled out of her contracts. Then another. By Friday, someone leaked parts of the ledger online, just the invoices, nothing too deep. But enough to raise questions. Then came the subpoenas. Rob Corbin's office was raided by noon. The city procurement guy he used to work with? Suspended. Internal investigation opened. Melanie? She vanished. Stopped showing up at the office. Deleted her socials. Disconnected her phone. That weekend, Brian called. She's in the wind. Her lawyer says she's in Florida. Can we still get her? We're working on it. But she's not going to get far. Then came the biggest twist of all. 2 weeks later, I got a letter. Not from Melanie, from her lawyer. Inside was a statement saying that Melanie claimed I had masterminded the fraud. That she was pressured by me into signing off on documents. That she was emotionally manipulated by her abusive younger brother. I stared at the paper. The nerve. This woman stole my business, laughed in my face, ran it into the ground with a dirty developer, and now she was trying to flip the whole thing back on me? I called Brian. She's trying to bury me. She won't. We have the voice recordings, the timestamps, the witnesses. But Eli, this means she's not going down without a fight. Then I'll make her regret that fight. That's when I remembered something I hadn't thought about in months. An old burner phone Melanie used to keep at the office. She said it was for work emergencies, but I always found it weird. Before she took over, it had been sitting in the bottom drawer of the desk near the break room. I drove back to the old office building. The place was empty now. Lights off. Lease ended. I still had a spare key. I opened that drawer. The phone was still there. Dead, but intact. I charged it overnight. When it finally powered up, I started going through it. And what I found? Text messages. Dozens of them. Between Melanie and Rob. Dates, bank account numbers, instructions to fudge this invoice or don't put Eli's name on that one. Even one that said, if he ever figures it out, make him look crazy. He's soft. People won't believe him. I didn't tell Brian right away. I was planning something else. One last card to play. I was going to leak it, not to the police. Not to the lawyers. But to someone who could bury her reputation faster than any courtroom, the press. And I already knew a guy. Local business journalist. We went to the same church growing up. He once did a story on Trek Fleet when I got my first contract. I set a meeting. Handed him the phone. The binder. The USB. No NDAs, I said. No filters. Just tell the truth. You sure? Very. He nodded. She's done. The article dropped on a Monday morning. Headline, Durham Logistics Company stolen in family scam. Whistleblower exposes financial web tied to city officials. It had everything. The forged documents. The payments to Rob Corbin. The voice recordings. The texts from the burner phone. They printed her quote, word for word, if he ever figures it out, make him look crazy. He's soft. People won't believe him. By noon, it was trending in the Southeast. By night, it hit national syndication. Melanie resurfaced 2 days later, at an airport in Miami. She was trying to fly to Costa Rica on a fake business visa. Homeland Security picked her up before she even reached the gate. They held her in a holding facility for 48 hours before transferring her back to North Carolina in cuffs. Her mugshot ran on the evening news. No filters. No designer heels. No spray tan. Just a jumpsuit and the coldest stare I've ever seen. Rob Corbin flipped fast. Claimed he was duped by Melanie, threw her under the bus, and begged for a reduced sentence. But Brian had the receipts. Emails. Texts. Wire logs. Rob went down too. The city did damage control. A few public officials quietly resigned. One got fired. I got calls from people who once ignored me, asking if I'd testify in hearings. I agreed. I didn't do it for politics. I did it for the record. I wanted every word I said to follow her name for the rest of her life. In court, Melanie pled no contest. Her lawyer begged for leniency, claiming family trauma and mental stress. The judge didn't buy it. When it was my turn to speak, I walked up to the podium and looked her straight in the eyes. She wouldn't look back. I told the court about the long nights, the contracts I earned, the workers she fired. I talked about my $72.13, the last amount left in the business account. I talked about what it felt like to see her laughing while I was eating canned soup alone in a dark apartment. Then I said, she didn't just steal my business. She stole my trust, my time, and my name. But she forgot something. I'm not the soft one. I'm the one still standing. The room was silent. The sentence came down the next week, 7 years in state prison. No parole for the first 4. Restitution of $812,000. She gasped when she heard it. I didn't. I had already moved on. Brian helped me start a new company, clean, legally bulletproof. It's called TrueHaul Logistics. I brought back Carlos and 2 of my original drivers. Word got around that I beat my sister in court and didn't fold. Clients started calling again. One even said, "You're the guy who took down that scammer. We trust you." As for the money? I'll probably never see all of it. But her accounts were frozen. Her car? Auctioned. Her condo? Seized and sold. I bought back one of my old trucks, my truck, from the liquidation. I paid $6,000 for it at auction. Still had the original keys in the glove box. I drive it myself sometimes. Just to remind myself where I started. Melanie writes me letters from prison. 3 so far. The first said she was sorry but had no choice. The second blamed Rob. The third asked if I'd consider helping her when she gets out. I never wrote back. You know what the crazy part is? If she had just asked for help, honestly, I probably would have said yes. But she chose lies. She chose greed. She chose to burn me, thinking I'd crawl away and disappear. She forgot that I built this from nothing. And people who build from nothing? We know how to start over. She wanted a war. So I gave her one. And I won.